Bonjour! Hi, I'm Camilla. This is actually my first video, so maybe I should introduce myself, but I don't want to do it because I'm kind of shy, you know. So, I will straight go into the video. I apologize in the first place for my pronouns, but I'm trying to increase my level in English, especially in pronunciation. I will read Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. How do you say Great Expectation? Expectation.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Great Expectations. Great Expectations.
So, I'm reading this book. I will record myself in this entire process to entertain you. This book is not so long, like it's 500 pages. I have nothing to do, so people said that it was really good. And I hope it will be. But I've never read Charles Dickens, so I don't know what to expect. Like, I studied it in school, but never read it fully. So, we will see what happens.
Later.
I reached chapter 7. What to say about this? We are introduced in a world where Pip is the main character of the story and also the first narrator. So the whole story is in the first person. I think Dickens chose wisely to tell this story in the first person because it's easier for the listener to be part of the story. Pip is an orphan, kind of, because all his family is dead except for his sister that is like almost a mother for him because she is 20 years older than him and she raised him, as she continues to say. She treats him very badly, like she's kind of rude. She's married to Joe, is kind of the opposite of her, and in her features, because she has dark hair and dark eyes, he has blonde hair and blue eyes. So we have kind of an opposite contrast. We don't know how old Pip is. I think he's kind of 9 or 10, maybe 11 years old. In the first chapters, the ones that I read till now, he tells us this event that I think kind of marked him. There's this outlaw that escaped prison and he kind of helps him, like he's forced to help him by bringing food to him. He's like so afraid of being caught in the act. I don't know, I get really strange feelings about this story. I'm just at the beginning of this adventure, but I'll keep on reading and we will find out what happens next.
The next day.
Sorry for the last clip, but I was a little tired and I spoke kind of slowly. I don't know why I was so slow, but I reached chapter 10 and I got my first encounter with Mrs. Havisham. And this book is getting crazy, like it's so weird and fascinating at the same time, and I'm kind of getting the point of this book and this story in general. I got to the point where we get a little more information about Pip's character and his role in this story and his development. Starting to get interesting because we are faced with one of the main themes of this novel. That's the unfairness and injustice of people. This topic is mainly represented by Pip's sister. She treats Pip so rudely and he has no fault, but she keeps on pointing out that he is a burden for her. She has to provide him food. She has to be a mother for him. And he is a burden for her. He grows up with this constant thought of being a burden, of being a fault, an error. So sensitive to what people think of him. Hate, injustice, unfairness of life. Yeah, it's getting more interesting. I think by this thought, he keeps on trying to be nice to people, be good. He constantly have to please people, to gratify them, even by telling lies, because he apparently isn't enough for them. Also for a little bit of pride of him. The only one that accepts Pip is Joe. I kind of love him because he's so tender and he's so lovable. Like, it's so cute. He tries to start reading. He tries to learn how to write correctly, and the only one that pushes Pip in this direction is Joe. Starts by now to be an interesting story because at first I was confused. It's starting to develop. I want to, if I find it in English, I want to read you the last sentences of chapter 9. Dickens, or better, Pip, directly tells the listener, the reader, to stop and think about where in life, if a specific event hasn't happened in your life, what your life would have become. Like, if something hasn't happened to me of my past, would I be the same now? This is kind of interesting.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Okay, yeah, I found it. My beautiful computer. I'll try to read it. If I'm not very good at it, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm trying, okay? That was a memorable day to me, for it made great changes in me. But it is the same with any life. Imagine one selected day struck out of it, and think how different its course would have been. Pause who read this, and think for a moment of the long chain of iron or gold, of thorns or flowers, that will never have bound you, but for the formation of the first link on one memorable day. I read a few pages today and I'm now to the point where Pip finally receives the money to realize his
Great Expectations.
and I am kind of hating his character. Like, yeah, I get all he has been through, and I also get that he wants to be more than just someone that is not so rich. And I think this is another theme of this novel, the unableness of people that are poorer to reach the higher classes. Pip has the chance of doing this by an anonymous benefactor, and I kinda have my suspects. Like, I think could be the prisoner that he helped at the beginning. I doubt this benefactor is Mrs. Havisham because she is a particular character. Like, I got this feeling that she hates men, like all kind of men, and she wants her revenge against them, and through Estella I think she's taking her revenge against men. At this point I'm kind of heartbroken for Joe and Biddy, the girl that helps Pip's sister to recover because Pip's sister had an aggression in her house. The story has begun. Like, it only started now. Before, there was only an introduction to this world, to the characters, to Pip. I also like that at this point, Dickens finds always a creative time passes. Like, he has to tell Pip is getting older, he's growing up. He finds a genius way to tell this, and I appreciate it. We also have more information about the Victorian education children receive. It's one of his characteristics. I'm currently at chapter 24, and we are presented more characters like Mr. and Mrs. Pocket and their son that we already met. We discover Kid that Pip fought during one of his visits to Mrs. Havisham was the son of Mr. Pocket. Herbert Pocket, really nice, really handsome. Mr. Pocket is actually the cousin of Mrs. Havisham, and so we are presented to his family. Miss Pocket is a strange woman, a childish woman, egoistic and selfish. Herbert, he is the same age of Pip, and I noticed that they are both under 25 years old. Pip arrives in London. Jaggers, his mentor. He manages all of his money because the
Great expectations.
that he receives are from an anonymous benefactor. The note that I wanted to evidence was where Pip goes to Herbert's house. Mr. Wemmick goes with him to show him where he has to go, and we are introduced with this character, a detailed description as Dickens always does. Mr. Wemmick has these mourning rings. They are specific rings, very popular during Victorian age, for grieving your beloved. I didn't know that there was this kind of ring, like humankind invented some kind of rings to wear to grieve your beloved once they are dead. So thank you, Charles Dickens, to letting me know about this. Good morning. I read some more. Pip has a lot of debts. Like, what the fuck? Are you dumb? And so does Herbert. That poor guy. I don't want him to have debts. He's the only one I care about. I fucking hate Pip. I can't bear him. He's in love with a woman, Estella, that always treats him bad. She doesn't want him. She doesn't love him and will never do. Like she said to him clearly many times. But yeah, he still wants to marry her. This may be an autobiographical poem from Dickens. When he wrote this book, he just got divorced, and I kind of get this intricate love. But man, no, not like this. The thing that I hate is that I don't really like Pip, what he's doing and how he's thinking. It seems like he is getting worse than better. Pip's sister died, so now Pip is invited to the funeral. I would like to point out that I finally find out how old is Pip. At this point of the story, Pip is 20 years old. Mrs. Havisham, I hate her. She's so dramatic to an extreme point. I know that people did you bad, but you have no excuses for behaving like that and to educate a little girl to be like you, even though she maybe has different opportunities in life. The only thing that's keeping me going is Herbert and Dickens' irony, because I kind of like it. I hope this ends soon because it's getting kind of boring. I'm sorry. I finally found out who the benefactor was. I have to tell you that I'm Mr. Sherlock Holmes because I already guessed it from the beginning. It was the outlaw. When Pip helped him, he decided that he wanted to be a better man. And so every tiny penny he received, he gave it to Pip. And obviously, Pip didn't want to have him as a benefactor because he wanted to be Mrs. Havisham.
So, I'm almost finished with
Great expectations.
Things are getting better, like faster and more interesting. We have discovered some more about the story of Alan. Who is Alan? Alan is the manufacturer of Pip, the outlaw Magwitch. Basically, he tells us that he was working with this man who was Companion, who was the other outlaw we meet at the beginning of the story, because two men escaped from the prison, not just one. They worked together, and guess what? Companion was the man that faked to be in love with Mrs. Havisham and left her. He had an helper, Arthur, the brother of Mrs. Havisham. Every character interacts with every other character of the story. This gave to the story more spiciness. So now Abel Magwitch is in danger because he came to London, not in a legal way. He is wanted by police. Herbert and Pip are organizing his escape. We discover that Estella is Abel's daughter. Pip receives a letter from his whole village. He doesn't know who sends this letter. He has to meet the addresser to discuss something about his uncle Provis, a nickname for Abel. Pip goes there. He finds Orlick that want to kill him, so we find out it was Orlick that assaulted Pip's sister. Fortunately, Herbert goes to help her Pip because he's a clever man. In the meantime, Estella is getting married to Drummond, a very bad guy. Pip doesn't want to give up on her. Anyway, Pip asks Mrs. Havisham to give Herbert, in an anonymous way, some money.
Several days later.
I finished
Great expectations.
by Charles Dickens. In the end, during the escape, Magwitch and Companion have a fight on the boat on the river. Magwitch kills Companion, so he goes under a trial and he is sentenced to death. But he dies before this happens. Pip has some regrets on how he treated Magwitch. In the meantime, also Mrs. Havisham dies. All that she had in life went to Estella. Bentley Drummond, Estella's husband, died. So Estella now is a widow. Pip decides to come back to the village, to Joe and to Biddy. He finds out that Joe and Biddy got married. At the very end, decided to go to El Cairo to be with Herbert and to work. After we have a jump of time, Dickens wrote two endings for this novel. The second ending is that Pip comes back to London, to Savi's home, Mrs. Havisham mentioned, and there he meets Estella. They decide to remain friends, and this may will develop in a love affair. The original ending was a little sadder. Estella remarried to a doctor and had some kids from him, and so they meet again, but they decide to be friends. First of all, we have to say Charles Dickens is one of the most important authors of the Victorian age, the early Victorian age, whereas George Eliot and Oscar Wilde are defined as late Victorian age novelists. Charles Dickens criticizes exploitations of poorer classes and the contradiction of the Victorian age. In the end, he complies progress will make a change, and by that he's defined as a mild reformer. He published his work through magazines and newspapers. We have a different effect on the reading. I really appreciated how he told me what was the situation in the Victorian age. This was
Great expectations.
by Charles Dickens. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you like this kind of videos, and I hope to see you soon.